The world had crumbled, civilization had fallen, and all that remained were scattered remnants of humanity, struggling to survive in the harsh, unforgiving landscape of a post-apocalyptic wasteland. In this bleak future, where knowledge had become a scarce commodity, a group of survivors had taken on a sacred mission to protect the last remaining library of physical books from a ruthless warlord who sought to destroy all knowledge. The library was a relic of a bygone era, a towering fortress of knowledge nestled within the ruins of an old city. Its shelves were lined with ancient tomes, encyclopedias, novels, and textbooks, a treasure trove of human history and wisdom. But it was also a beacon of hope, a symbol that the remnants of humanity refused to let the flames of knowledge be extinguished. The warlord, known as General Arik, ruled over the wasteland with an iron fist. He believed that knowledge was dangerous, that it could lead to insurrection and rebellion. And so, he made it his mission to eradicate every last vestige of written knowledge from the world, starting with the library. Inside the library's fortified walls, a diverse group of survivors had gathered, led by a former librarian named Eleanor. They were scholars, teachers, and book lovers who had banded together to protect this last sanctuary of human wisdom. Eleanor, a woman in her 50s with graying hair and a fierce determination in her eyes, stood before her fellow survivors, rallying them for the battle to come. She knew that General Arik's forces would stop at nothing to destroy the library, and they had to be prepared.
We cannot let the knowledge contained within these walls be lost to the sands of time,
Eleanor declared.
We will defend this library with our lives if we must. Our mission is to protect the legacy of humanity, to ensure that future generations have access to the wisdom of the past.
The survivors had spent years fortifying the library, setting traps, and stockpiling supplies. They had converted the reading rooms into living quarters, and the study areas into defensive positions. They knew that when General Arik's forces arrived, they would be vastly outnumbered, but they were determined to make their stand. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the library in an eerie twilight, the warlord's army approached. General Arik's forces were a motley crew of marauders, armed with makeshift weapons and driven by a fanatical desire to eradicate knowledge. They bore torches and makeshift explosives, ready to burn the library to the ground. Eleanor and her defenders watched from the library's windows as the enemy forces drew nearer. The tension was palpable, but their resolve remained unshaken. They had a plan. As General Arik's forces began their assault, the defenders of the library sprang into action. They unleashed a barrage of projectiles and Molotov cocktails, causing chaos among the attackers. But the warlord's forces were relentless, and they pressed on, inching closer to their objective. Eleanor, armed with a shotgun and a heart filled with determination, led a sortie to push back the enemy. She fired round after round, her aim true, as her fellow defenders fought valiantly beside her. The library's defenders were vastly outnumbered, but their knowledge of the terrain and their unwavering determination gave them an edge. As the battle raged on, a hail of bullets and fire, Eleanor and her group fought their way to General Arik himself. In a fierce standoff, Eleanor confronted the warlord, their eyes locking in a moment of intense determination.
You will not destroy this library,
Eleanor declared, her voice unwavering. General Arik, a grizzled man with a scarred face and a twisted sense of purpose, sneered.
Knowledge is power, and I won't let it fall into the wrong hands.
The two clashed in a desperate struggle, the fate of the library hanging in the balance. Eleanor fought with every ounce of strength and willpower, and in a final decisive moment, she managed to disarm General Arik and send him sprawling to the ground. The warlord's forces, witnessing the defeat of their leader, began to waver. Without General Arik's leadership, their fanatical zeal faded, and they retreated in disarray. The defenders of the library emerged victorious, but not without cost. Many had been wounded, and the library itself had suffered damage in the battle. But the books remained intact, their knowledge preserved for future generations. As the dust settled, Eleanor and her fellow survivors stood amidst the ruins of the library, their hearts heavy, but their spirits unbroken. They had protected the last bastion of knowledge, ensuring that the wisdom of the past would endure in the face of darkness. And so, in a post-apocalyptic world where knowledge had become a scarce and precious resource, a group of survivors had prevailed against the forces of ignorance and tyranny. They had defended the last remaining library of physical books, preserving humanity's legacy and proving that even in the bleakest of times, the power of knowledge could prevail over darkness.